There's a certain image that comes to mind when you think of Rolex: the polished fluted bezels, the status pieces, the models everyone already knows, the Submariner, the Daytona, the GMT. But if you go onto Rolex's website, click on professional models and scroll all the way to the bottom, that's where you find this watch, the Air King, last on the list. The Air King has always been a Rolex that operates a little differently in how it looks, how it evolved, and the stories attached to it. And one of those stories happens to be one of the strangest in Rolex history. Back in the 80s, Rolex used to make the Air King with a factory printed Domino's pizza logo on the dial, an officially commissioned reward for franchise owners who hit specific sales targets. It sounds unbelievable, but it's real, and it reveals the Air King's unusual place in the world of Rolex. And just like I scrolled past it online, for years I walked right past it in the display case too. It was always there, but never the watch I reached for, until one day an authorized dealer placed it in my hand and said, "People overlook this model, but they really shouldn't." That's when everything clicked, because what I discovered was a Rolex that blends aviation heritage, bold modern design, and serious technical refinement, all with a confidence that doesn't rely on hype or scarcity. And here's the part most people won't expect. In a world where nearly every stainless steel Rolex professional model is almost impossible to buy, this one is actually available. You can walk into a store and chances are you'll be able to purchase it immediately. Today we're breaking down the Air King 126-900, the latest version of this model. If you're someone who's ever overlooked the Air King like I did, this video might genuinely change the way you see it. Let's begin. The Air King's story embodies the ties Rolex forged with the world of aviation since the 1930s. Rolex created a series of air watches to honor RAF pilots: the Air Lion, Air Tiger, Air Giant. But only one survived the test of time: the Air King. Officially introduced in 1958, it was Rolex's quietly reliable everyday companion for decades. Simple, unpretentious, a 34mm watch that didn't try to compete with the Submariner, GMT-Master or Daytona. It just existed alongside them. Then, in 2014, Rolex discontinued it. Most assumed that was the end. But in 2016, the Air King returned, completely transformed. Bolder, larger, and inspired visually by the Bloodhound SSC Landspeed record car's cockpit instruments, which were designed by Rolex. Some people loved the new direction, others were confused by it. But one thing was clear: the Air King finally had a distinct personality. Then, in 2022, Rolex refined that design into the reference 126-900, the version we're looking at today. Sharper, more balanced, more functional, yet still unmistakably the Air King. The 126-900 comes in a 40mm oyster steel case, a size that in my opinion hits the perfect sweet spot for a modern Rolex. It wears comfortably on wrist from roughly 6.25 to 7.75 inches, for which it's an ideal daily companion. But the real magic isn't just the diameter, it's the geometry. The lug-to-lug distance lies in the range of 47 to 49mm, and the case thickness is just 11.6mm. The result, a watch that sits flat and secure, with that planted, confidence-inspiring feel Rolex has mastered. The latest version has a 21mm lug width, which matters more than you'd think. Normally, I'm strongly against changing the bracelet on a Rolex. The Oyster bracelet is such a core part of the brand's identity that swapping it out often feels wrong. But the Air King is different. Its aviation and military roots give it a personality that actually welcomes a strap change. The watch transforms in a way most Rolex models simply don't. If you want to explore a few strap options that pair perfectly with this reference, we have a curated selection of high-quality straps over at distincttimepieces.com. Rolex also added crown guards in the 2022 update, a small but meaningful change that immediately brings the Air King deeper into the professional lineup. The screw-down crown itself has deep, sharply machined grooves that give you excellent grip when setting the time. It feels precise, mechanical, and genuinely satisfying to use, like on most Rolex watches. Something I really like about this watch is that the case is primarily brushed, reinforcing its tool watch identity, while the polished flanks add just enough refinement to keep it unmistakably Rolex. And because the Air King is built from Rolex's 904L oyster steel, you also get exceptional corrosion resistance, far beyond what standard 316L steel offers. It's the kind of material advantage you don't notice on day one, but you absolutely appreciate it years down the line. Whether it's sweat, humidity, seawater, or everyday wear, oyster steel shrugs it off and retains its luster. And the bezel? A shallow, conical, smooth bezel, not domed, not fluted, giving the watch a crisp modern edge that sets it apart from everything else in the catalogue. The oyster bracelet here is classic Rolex. Solid 3-piece links, a clean taper, a fully brushed finish, It's among the greatest watch bracelets ever made and feels silky smooth on the wrist, but the clasp deserves a special mention. It's the Oyster Lock safety clasp, robust, secure, and engineered with the same philosophy behind Rolex's more specialized sports clasps. It includes one of Rolex's most useful features, the 5mm Easy Link extension, perfect for quick adjustments on warm days or during long wear. Now let's talk about the element of this watch that really defines the Air King. A deep black dial, bold applied 3, 6, and 9 numerals, a precise minute scale inspired by cockpit instruments, a luminous triangle at 12, the green seconds hand, the yellow Rolex crown, and the classic Air King script, identical to the original model from 1958. The color accents aren't random, they're matched perfectly using pad printing with the green calibrated to Rolex's logo's exact shade. I can't quite explain why, but the yellow and green always reminds me of tennis. In 2022, Rolex added Chromolite lume to the 3, 6, and 9 numerals, giving the dial full low light legibility for the first time. And of course, the Air King features Rolex's iconic Mercedes hour hand, a detail shared with other models like the Submariner and GMT-Master II. It's a subtle cue that places the Air King firmly within the professional lineup. Compare that to the simpler baton-style hands on the Oyster Perpetual. Those are clean and elegant, but they don't carry the same tool watch personality. It's not a dial that's meant to blend in, it's a dial meant to express something. It's a dial that feels more like an instrument than jewelry, and that's exactly what makes it so compelling. Some collectors, however, find the mixture of fonts, colors, and numerals a bit chaotic, even un-Rolex in its personality. If you prefer symmetry or simplicity, this design may never fully resonate with you. But for those who appreciate an instrument-forward aesthetic, this dial is precisely what sets the Air King apart from everything else in Rolex's professional lineup. Inside is the Calibre 3230, Rolex's modern no-date movement. It offers 70 hours of power reserve and is a movement built for longevity, with excellent shock and anti-magnetic resistance. It runs at an accuracy of ±2 seconds per day, in line with Rolex's superlative chronometer standard. This movement has proven to be one of Rolex's most reliable modern calibers, low maintenance, extremely stable, and easy to regulate during service. It's built to disappear into your life, something you'd expect from any modern Rolex. The Air King balances boldness and practicality in a way few watches do. The dial draws attention, the brush case keeps it grounded, the polished accents make it versatile. It works as a daily watch, a professional watch, a casual sports watch, even something you can dress up thanks to the smooth bezel and clean lines. It's colorful without being playful, distinctive without being loud, purposeful without being predictable. The Air King's low-key appeal resonates even with those who could wear the rarest Rolex models. Roger Federer and Gordon Ramsay have both been photographed in Air King references, a reminder that sometimes the most interesting choice is the one that isn't trying to be the center of attention. Rolex makes only one Air King, 40mm, oyster steel, black dial, smooth bezel, oyster bracelet, no date, no variations. It's refreshingly straightforward. A Rolex that doesn't drown you in configurations or colorways. You either connect with it or you don't. And in a way, that simplicity makes the decision easier. And here's the biggest surprise. It's actually obtainable. In a world where stainless steel Rolex models have become nearly impossible to buy, the Air King is the quiet outlier. Most ADs will sell it without years on a list, in many cases right there on the spot. And part of what makes this watch so appealing today is that it's a low-key Rolex. It doesn't scream for attention, it doesn't lean on hype, it's the kind of piece you wear for yourself, not for the reaction that it gets across the room. When it comes to cost, the Air King 126900 is also one of the more accessible Rolex professional models. Retail currently sits at £6,600 and pre-owned examples of the latest reference typically trade at retail or slightly below, which is almost unheard of for modern steel sports Rolex. That's why the Air King is one of the few professional models where the numbers genuinely make sense. You get modern Rolex engineering and robustness without the inflated premiums attached to the Submariner, GMT-Master II or Daytona. Yet the watch still holds its value well if you ever need to sell. It almost feels like stepping back into 2015. This is where the comparison to the Oyster Perpetual 41 becomes interesting. The Oyster Perpetual is often called the entry-level Rolex, and I genuinely believe it's the brand distilled in its purest form. Simple, elegant, timeless, it's Rolex design at its most essential, the origin point for everything that came after, including this Air King. But ironically, the Oyster Perpetual 41 has become surprisingly difficult to get. Colors get discontinued, demand spikes, and waitlists build for what was supposed to be the most straightforward Rolex in the catalogue. And this is exactly where the Air King quietly outperforms its competition. Put it side by side with the Explorer 1 or the Oyster Perpetual 41, and the Air King often delivers more personality, better availability, a more distinctive wrist presence, and far less hassle to actually acquire. Among collectors, this is why the Air King has been gaining momentum, not through hype or speculation, but through a slow burn realization that this watch offers something rare in today's Rolex landscape: character without chaos. And if you're someone trying to build a relationship with your authorized dealer, the Air King can be a great first step, as long as you genuinely want the watch, of course. It's one of the few professional models that lets you begin that journey without playing the usual waiting list games or buying higher priced pieces you don't actually want. And choosing it still shows your authorized dealer that you're a genuine enthusiast, someone who appreciates the brand for its history and character, not just the hype watches. It's refreshing to walk into an authorized dealer, skip the politics, and walk out with a Rolex you'll genuinely enjoy, a watch you'll build memories with, not lock away. Some even believe a future discontinuation could push this reference towards future classic status. Nothing is guaranteed, but the signs are certainly there. The Air King is for someone who wants real aviation heritage, personality over popularity, a distinctive dial, a Rolex that doesn't look like every other Rolex, and a professional model they can actually buy. It's not for someone who wants a date function, a conservative layout, or endless variants, but for the right wrist, it's something special. But here's the honest flip side. If you want a cleaner dial, the Explorer exists. If you want heritage purity, the Oyster Perpetual exists. If you want maximum versatility, the Date just exists. The Air King isn't trying to be everything, it sits in its own lane. So ask yourself this: do you want the Rolex everyone buys, or the Rolex you buy for you? It's without question the Air King is heavily underrated and often misunderstood. It blends history, character, modern engineering, and a design language that refuses to play it safe. It has strengths that genuinely shine: comfort, capability, uniqueness, true availability, and a dial that tells a story rather than following a trend. But it does have drawbacks worth acknowledging: a divisive design, no date, and less traditional Rolex DNA than the watches it sits beside. But if you understand what it's trying to be, an instrument-inspired, character-driven Rolex, it becomes one of the most rewarding pieces in the modern catalogue. Buy it if you want personality and history, skip it if you want symmetry or the classic Rolex look. And if you're considering it purely as a fallback because you can't get something else, it can fill that gap, but in truth, it's a watch that deserves to be chosen for what it is, not for what it isn't. Wherever you stand, while the Air King may be the very last watch on Rolex's professional models page, it's certainly not the last one you should consider. If you enjoyed this review, please hit like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you think. And let me know in the comments, has the Air King earned your attention, or are you still on the fence? Also, check out our online store distincttimepieces.com, where you can shop for the finest watch accessories, straps in a variety of materials, and watch rolls, all shipped globally. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.